What's up, guys? My name's Axelboy and welcome to my studio. I'm a UK bass music producer. I like to make UK bass, dubstep, drum and bass, and I'm well known for making sounds like this. If you like those sorts of sounds, then you'll love this masterclass that I've created with DNB Academy. It takes you from start to finish on my creative process when making a DNB banger. The course is over 6 hours long and I'll be using Logic Pro X. I'll be covering sound design, bassline creation, composition and arrangement, and advanced synthesis using Serum. I'll also be covering mixing and mastering to show you how to get that loud and precise Axelboy sound. This course includes the Logic profile with all of the samples and all of the presets so you can dive straight in and get creative. It's been really great to share this with you and I hope you guys enjoy the course.
Hi there, this is Lower and you are watching a DNB Academy tutorial. What I'm going to do today is I'm just going to basically start a track from almost scratch and finish it all the way through, hopefully. We'll see how it goes. I did prepare a few things in advance just because searching through samples is a bit long-winded and you probably don't want to watch me do that. So, normally, when I have a track, I will start with the drums. So, what I've done is I've selected a few sounds, and I'll go through them with you now. So I've got a standard kick here, in a standard pattern as well. One thing that you should always do, and that I've been getting really into lately, is just putting the start point of the sample right up against the actual sample as well, because sometimes they have a little gap like that at the beginning and when you're mixing you want everything to be exactly where it should, on point, and it'll just sound so much better overall, more in time and everything. So don't be afraid to zoom right in. I've done that with all the others already, it's just the first one there. So I've selected a standard kick pattern for this track, classic drum and bass. Then you'd have your snare, and the snare I had is basically just a rim shot. But I'm going to add in a click as well for this. Like, just something to give it a bit of excitement on the top end. But what I'm going to do is on the second one, I'm going to change the detune very slightly, and also I'm going to have the release a bit tighter as well, so it's a slightly different sound. So it gives it that seesaw effect. It's very subtle, but at least it's not as robotic as it was before. Might actually do a little bit more. Pardon me. There we go. It's all about keeping, especially if you've got quite a simple track, about keeping the elements you use interesting and not too monotonous, in my opinion. If you want to, in Ableton, if you want to quite easily copy something across, if you highlight the area you want to copy, like this, and press Ctrl D, it will automatically paste it next to it. So you can copy whole sections, like if I wanted to copy this bar here, for example, the kick and the snare group, I could just do that and it would copy it on. And it's a very quick way of expanding out your grooves. So the next thing I added in was a hi-hat pattern, really basic hi-hat pattern. But what I have done, I did move the start point as well. And what I've done is I've changed on the second repeat, I've reduced the volume very slightly and I've detuned it. And then the next one was detuned in a different way, so it's gone up 30 semitones, 30 detune cent, and it's gone back to 0 for that one, and then the next one was down 12. So basically I've got a loop of 4 hi-hats there that are all slightly different. It's very subtle. In fact, I might on this one, I'm gonna use the beats mode to change the release. That doesn't seem to be doing anything. There we go. It's just very subtle. It gives it more of a rhythm, in my opinion. And I also rolled off the low end because there was a lot of like unwanted sounds down there. Yeah, and then I expanded that out. Hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. Let's do that again. There we go. Again, using that Control D, which is incredibly useful. That's probably my most used shortcut. So that with the rest of the beat is just a very basic. Oh, I did add a little bit of reverb, but I'll take that off for now. Again, tops as well. I've got this very nice shaker, which is part of the think break. Which, if you look at the original sample here, I've cut it off the end of it. If I bring that over here. So, if I type it in here, you'll be able to see. Think. So this is the original sample. I'm sure you've all heard it. I've got an EQ, so you can't hear the low end, but so it's this part here, and I've just cut that out, and I've used the time stretch basically to, if I do it here quickly, you can just use 2 points to stretch a sound or compress a sound to your desired speed. I also used the beats mode here with the one shot sample, and then use that to make it a tighter sound by reducing the release. Also, you can see if you bring that right to 0, it makes it more of a click, which you can use quite effectively just for creating effects and other little nice little samples like that. Sounds a bit like garage, really. You can do a lot with just the Ableton stock plugins and their processing and stuff. So, but for this one, I've just kept it quite organic. I didn't choose to pitch it up yet, but maybe I will later. So I've got this so far. So we need a bit of interest, so some percussion and maybe some rides and things like that. So we can, let's try and move these around a little bit here. And again, I'll probably do the same thing with these rides to make them more interesting. So this one, for example, we'll just put it down a little bit. You have to be a bit more careful with rides because they seem to be a bit more tonal, so you'll notice more of a... So if I was to put it down like this, you'd notice. You don't necessarily want them to play a tune, you just want them to sound slightly different. might as well do this too. See? Be quite careful with that. So let's see what we got. That's quite loud, this one, so we'll bring that down a little bit. Copy it all over. Maybe we can bring the whole volume of that up actually. Cool. We should add some percussion in. I've actually pre-selected some sounds already. With my productions, I tend to put them in at the end of each phrase, so like every 4 or 8 bars. But in this case, I've got a slight bit of percussion every 2 bars, and then on the fourth bar, I've added another one in, pitched down very slightly, just to sort of give it a bit more interest. It's all on the offbeat as well, so it gives it more groove. What we should do though, I think maybe we should add some bit crush, because bit crush can make things sound pretty cool, I reckon. So if we did redux, you have to be careful with it though, because it can sound really horrible. Okay, so highlight those, group them together, then we can do all our processing, add a bit of reverb on there. Okay, so there's quite a lot of low end in this, so we're going to add a EQ8 and roll off the low end. So you can see the peak there, that's we want to keep that there. We don't want to roll too much off, otherwise it would be taken away from the sound. Maybe a bit more reverb. I might turn these down very slightly. That'll do for now, we can revisit those later. So we've got like a very basic drum kit going. So I've also prepared a really cheesy chord sequence to go with this. Can take quite a long time to come up with some good chords, so I've pre-prepared this as well. Here we go. I'm using a piano for now. We can always change that later. So that's what it sounds like with the beat so far. That ride is really high actually, just bring that down. Actually, before I move on, usually what I do is I'll group all the hi-hats and the rides and everything together in one unit. That way you have more control over them. I'm not actually liking the sound of these now. I'm going to change my mind on that. Let's get rid of those. Yeah, let's keep the original nice clean sound there. Rename these stops. Boop. Drum stops. So when I'm writing a track, I usually do all the musical parts first and add the bass towards the end, because the bass is the most important thing, but I want to make sure the elements are there, like the musical hooks and everything are working really nicely first. It's just the way I like to do it. So what should we do here? If we duplicate this, maybe we can get some nice strings going. So load up an instance of Contact or whatever string plugin you use. You can use samples as well. Quite often I use samples to make these synthetic strings sound a bit more real. Let's see what we got. Maybe actually if we just had a cello, that would be really nice. Never done that before. Let's try something new. See what we got. So this long part here is quite drawn out, so maybe if we add some patterns in for the cello that can jazz it up a little bit. Let's see what we got. That should be the kick there. So I find if you change notes on either a kick or snare, it kind of works really well usually with drum and bass, and it gives it that sort of funk, I guess. You don't want, last thing you want to do is change all the notes exactly on the bar. It'll just sound really boring after a while. So I've got these notes here, they've been muted, so we can use those as a reference what chord we're using. So maybe let's try something like this. Hold on. I've got the hold pedal on, annoyingly. So we'll just take that off quick. There we go. So what have we got here? We could use these notes. Nope. I feel like we're writing a bass now. I mean, we kind of are. So, okay. Now I'm getting in the mood to write a bass. So maybe we're going to completely backtrack on what I just said, and we're going to go write a bass to these chords because it just feels like a good thing to do. And we don't always have to follow the set way of doing things. So, open a new MIDI track. Let's get an instance of Serum in here. I usually like using just pure subs, pure sine waves, sorry. So let's see what happens here. That's very loud. I feel like having a wobble somewhere around here would be cool. We could do like the old octave doohickey. With basses as well, I find sometimes if you put it up an octave, you can hear what you're doing. You might have to tone it down a bit. No. Where are we going here? Let's try this note. So all I'm doing is I'm just looking where the chord notes are and I'm choosing one of those three. You can use the other notes in the scale as well. At the moment we're in A minor, I believe, so any of the white notes will work. Let's try going down a few on here. Yeah, I'm feeling this. Oh. Okay. No. So I'm sort of semi-happy with that pattern at the moment. So what we'll do is we'll just make that back to where it was. So it's a couple of octaves down. And I quite often like to use an 808 plugin called BD808, which is so good, and it's free as well, which is even better. And quite often I use that at the end of a phrase or something like that, just to make it more interesting. So let's see if we can get this working here. So what you got to do is you've got a MIDI sync. So basically, instead of just playing like a bass drum kick, it plays like the notes of the MIDI. So you should turn the accent down, and that's the long decay, sorry. Tone down. And what we'll do to get rid of that horrible click on the top end is just roll it off. There you go, we get a nice deep sound then. Right, so probably going to add a bit of saturation just to make it a little bit more and then we can change this up a little bit here. Just to give it a little bit more funk, we can. Actually, I don't like the way this sounds. Up an octave maybe. Yeah, it's starting to come together a little bit. This transition here isn't too good. So one trick I learned recently with the bass is, if you're just working from scratch like this, you can actually use, let's just isolate this one quickly. To do that, I'm pressing a 0 on the keypad and it just turns off the MIDI clip, or you can delete it, it's up to you guys. So with this one here, you can actually use the auto pan. If you turn the phase all the way to 0 and turn the amount up to the amount you want, let's try 16ths. You can actually modulate the volume quite easily like this. It's like a hack. Obviously, it probably doesn't sound too great. It's a bit of a cheaty way of doing it, but you can get some pretty crazy sounds. Probably doesn't suit this too much. So we could do that again if you want to modulate this one very slightly differently. So we just put that in there. We could, I don't know, say do. So obviously this is a very basic kind of bass line. But it usually takes quite a while to come up with a solid idea for a track, and it's a lot of trial and error and everything, but for the purpose of this we're going to roll with that for now. What we'll do though is maybe add a bit of grit in there, I reckon. So what we can do, I don't do this too often, is duplicate this one, and then what we're going to do is add some saturation. And another one. And we can use trash, wherever it is. Here you go, trash 2. To turn the sine wave into a bit more of a gritty sound. So I can't remember any good presets on here, but so there's a bit of trial and error. Okay, some of these are a bit. Okay, maybe not. Let's just use the Ableton stuff. So we can use a combination between OTT, drum bus has, no, not drum bus, sorry. Bit of overdrive maybe. Okay, so let's have a little play around, see if we can get something sounding decent just with the Ableton stuff. We can use the automation. To get some interesting sounds, so I'm just going to mess around. Use a filter maybe on there. So maybe we can get this going. That's quite a nice pattern so far, anyway. Let's try some Redux. Right, just had a quick break. So, what I'd probably do with this is I'd keep a copy and then I'd render a copy to audio, so then we can see a little bit better what's going on exactly. So if you just freeze, flatten it, you get, what we can do as well is just mute that so it doesn't use as much CPU. So now we can see our top part, and then we can start to play around. And I think trick is never to throw anything away, so just put it to one side. Maybe if we can create a rhythm with this part here, sounds kind of cool, I reckon. Let's try this one. Just did that so it gives it a little bit more punch when this part comes in. Okay, so it's kind of coming together a little bit. This sounds needs to be thickened up a bit, I think. It's not too punchy at the moment. Needs a bit of EQ and things, so probably take some of the top end off. Maybe not. Might just look for a few of the frequencies that are really standing out. I kind of like the way that sounds, if I'm honest, so maybe we'll... If we duplicate this, we can then add another EQ to find the resonant note of this one. And then we can do the same again for this one. I think we go up. Could be alright. Let's see. I think we should change the bass note so it's a little bit sooner than the bar there. Should be on this mark here, I reckon. So if we just move that across, we can delete this one. Maybe. Maybe if we... Yeah, something like that. I feel like this should loop though now. What did we have here? Oops. We need something here. I feel like it should be like a longer note now. Something a little bit. Maybe just use. maybe if we automate the LFO on it. Obviously not that much, but a bit slower. Something like that maybe. Oh, no. We want to offset it by 180. Maybe not. I don't like 1/8. Nope. Maybe if we just have it very slight. Let's try this. So there's another method we can use instead of freezing. If you don't already know, we can resample. So I use this quite a lot. So you just need to activate the record and solo the element you want to record in. Then all you got to do is press record. There we go. Got a little pop in there as well. So get rid of that again now. We should probably group all these together. Now they're grouped, we can do all the compression on the group. So in essence we'd save on our CPU, which is kind of useful, especially if your computer's getting a bit old like mine. Yeah, that's not quite working, is it? So we need to come up with an idea for this one. I really like the beginning there. That could work if we automate that up. Maybe. Yeah, maybe we can add some crunch to this. A bit of crew cut maybe. But on this one we're going to take off the low end because we don't want that. Need a bit more crunch, maybe some overdrive. Cool. the elements are coming together. We just need to turn it into an actual something that's memorable, basically a nice hook. So that'd just be a case of moving everything around a lot. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get all the sub parts into one. So that's a sub part there. This is 2. So we're going to isolate those as sub. So in theory, so these are sub 2. So we're going to put them all in the same group. That means we've got control over those. We can make sure all the levels are hitting the same points because they're all on different instruments. We want the sub to be as punchy on all of them. And then what's left is, I've forgotten what I've done now. Yep, so that can go in there because that's a mid part. Mid bass, I think. Maybe we can give it a hit back here on the 808. Like there, maybe. So that's a sub. Cut that out. If we paste that in there. Oops. Yeah. Yeah, that's not quite flowing very well, is it? How can we do this? Maybe if we get rid of that. That could be cool. So actually, that said, we could mimic this, the modulation on, oh, what was it? Oh no, I've forgotten now. Should be on here, so it's 1/12. So we can use the auto pan on here again on the sub at 1/12. 1/12. There you go. I think it might be offset as well. Oh, it's very slightly, so 42.9. Give it a save quick. funny, isn't it, how we started with a nice chord progression like this and ended up with something completely different. But doesn't mean to say that's redundant. We can always use these chords for pads or arpeggiators, anything really. So let's carry on. So I'm a bit of a weirdo like this, but I like to make all my colours nice and match. So all my mid basses, what we're going to do here, browns. Very boring colours. What's this here? That's the MIDI. So I usually make MIDI that I'm not using black, just so I know. That way we don't have to worry about it. Okay, cool. I tend to do mixing as I go along. So with mixing, I use you can't see it. So I use a program called Span, and it's basically a visualizer, frequency analyzer. But for the sake of this, I will use the Ableton one. Where is it? There we go. Spectrum. So the subs, I think they could do with leveling out. What I use to do that usually is I'll get them as level as I can with just volume and listening. One way one thing you can do is just watch the multiband dynamics or a visualizer, and then just watch where it hits, and you can adjust each clip accordingly. But I find this the easiest way. So that wobble needs to come up a little bit. This one here. That's also quite loud, so I might EQ some of these frequencies out. Let's have a little play, see what we got. One thing that I like to add to my drums is the glue compressor. So glue compressor can be really nice at just gluing everything together, funnily enough, which is exactly what it says on the tin. Where is it? Glue compressor. full parallel. There we go. So that's without it, and that's with it. It just makes everything nice and tight. So, one thing I think we should add probably is some little extra sounds, like in this gap here specifically, like maybe a or something like that. So, if we look for like vocal, I've got tons of random stuff. So.
What's
Jumping.
I just Nick West on
Off the top of the dome.
what I say. Let's just get it.
Some are better than others.
You just have to keep on searching,
I wanna know if your heart beats in time.
You want like a guy vocal, I think, so. Or like a vintage one, that'd be cool.
One thing that did happen during the 60s was some music of an unusual or experimental nature did get recorded and did get released. Now look at who the executives were in those companies at those times.
Baby, get lost in this moment.
Makes you wonder, but I'm talking about now. Now, all I can see.
And so, into this little tortured mind came the idea that that gun had been produced for use. And so, into this little tortured...
I want 1/3 of everything you get. I want 1/3 of everything you get.
It is a jungle war in which patrols must anticipate an ambush at any instant. It is a jungle war.
Very cheesy.
War and war. Jungle war.
Jungle War.
Jungle war.
That's so bad.
Jungle war.
No, maybe not.
Civil defense officials in Cumberland have told newsmen that murder victims show evidence of having been...
No.
No matter what happens, you've got to hang on. No matter what happens, you've got to hang.
This is where you can have some fun.
satisfaction they couldn't get any other way.
Now we're going to start this dance off with a nice, dreamy waltz.
It's also the bit that can take a very long time. Ooh, saucy.
At the end, at the
No, boring. Maybe some effects. Oh, these are drum and bass ones. I like the end of that, it's kind of cool. Might have to tame that a little bit, it's really rough. So I'm just going to volume fade them. Maybe the drum one. Oh, I love these kind of sounds. Go gridlock. So we could use a piece of that as well. That's kind of cool. Kind of like that. I think we should get an ARP in here, to be honest, like some sort of ARP just to keep it flowing all the way through. So let's get a new one of these in. Hide that one. Let's make it bright and colourful. No, we've already got green. Yeah, pink. Fuck it, why not? Woo! Get up. Arpeggiator. I'm a big fan of down ones, to be honest. No. For the sake of this tutorial, I think we'll just use Serum because most people have Serum. Or actually, maybe not. Let's use wavetable. Maybe I've never really used this. Let's just use a preset or something. Let's have a look. Synth leads. They got anything for ARPs? Mallets. Ooh. Some sort of crazy sound. Ugh. Discordant. That is bizarre. Maybe not. Kind of like that sound, but definitely won't work as an ARP. That is ridiculous. Be good as a one shot though. Maybe we'll keep that for later. Oh shit. Ooh. It's got some weird business going on here. Oh man, crunchy. It's killing my CPU completely. Looks like it's got an arpeggiator in there. Delete that. Jesus, maybe not. Oh dear. This is a very weird synth. Jesus. You know what? Let's go to instruments, operator or something. There we go. I just want it on this part really. So I want it to go up really high. Maybe a bit faster than that. Oh, too fast. Strange. So in Ableton there's a new feature. If you highlight a MIDI piece, as long as it's the same length, like 2 MIDI pieces like this, you can view them at the same time, which is really useful for if you're trying to make sure the notes are working together. So really we want this note here, bizarrely. Oh, this is going to sound really weird now. Maybe we should just skip that. This is very quickly turning into a strange track. This one. make that legato. That's kind of strange, it gives it like this delay feel. We could also filter that up with a filter, obviously. That'd give it, lead it in a bit better probably. Do not underestimate the power of a filter. Yeah, it needs to be a bit stronger than that. If you hold Alt, you can make curves like this as well, which is really useful. A bit more of an organic curve always helps. Also, this part here where the bass cuts out, I think I'm going to stop the drums. So all the hi-hats in here, I'm going to mute just to add a bit of interest. You don't find a lot of producers in DNB like, well, actually that's not true. You don't find a lot of drum and bass use breaks quite a lot. So a lot of people don't tend to cut out like little tiny bits and do tiny little edits when they're using breaks, but in the more techie kind of drum and bass you get a lot of this sort of stuff, but you don't find it so much with liquid. There's a bit of clicking going there. Is that this? Is it this? What's clicking? What is that? Faded, faded, faded. That is bizarre. Okay, you. Why? Oh, I see. Cheeky. Okay, so we've got like a basic section now for the whole thing. So what I'd then do generally would be to, that should really be in effects, so we'll put it in there, make it the right color. Personally I always do my drums orange, my effects cyan I think that is, bass is always brown for some reason, brown bass. And everything else is different colours. I find if I'm looking at really dull colours, I don't really get inspired, weirdly. My brain works in strange ways, so personally for me that works well. So I've got this section. What we're going to do now is just duplicate that, and then we're going to do some like little subtle changes on this second part, just to keep it interesting. Maybe do something with the first bit. Maybe add like a filter or something. Maybe something like that. Got to control this as well so it doesn't be too crazy. What's that, 20%? So this one needs to be 20% as well. Oops, maybe not. Okay, so we should probably think about adding some sort of pad in later on, but we can, luckily we've already got the chords for that, so we can, as long as they match now, we can use the chords. So let's again use some stock plugins. I don't normally use stock plugins, but for the sake of this tutorial, for some reason my recording doesn't pick up any VSTs that I use, so because you guys obviously want to see what I'm doing, hopefully, then I'll use the stock plugins for you guys. A bit resonant. Oh, that's beautiful. Go Ableton. Yeesh. Holy moly. I know what that is. Da, da, da. Hold pedal. Nope. Hold pedal. Turn that off. That is very weird. can't hear it at all. Apologies for my CPU. What we'll do is we'll just freeze it, just so we can tell if it's working or not. Do, 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 do. I would sing you a song, but my voice is terrible. There we go. Okay, so with this, it's probably best to... I'm going to have to unfreeze it. Going to duplicate this. Going to stop that one working, and we're going to use a very basic patch just so we can actually hear what we're doing for the notes. Actually sounds kind of good. I don't mind it. But I would get rid of some of the notes, especially the lower ones, and then maybe make some of the high ones. Maybe go up. So what I did there was I highlighted and pressed shift, and if you press up or down on your keypad, it'll go up and down an octave, which is really handy. Kind of like that. So that would be, I might actually use this, to be honest. We're going to make this blue actually. What colour? This blue. Why not? I'm going to screw this one off. Bye. So for the bass pattern for this second part, just as a quick and easy, we're just going to just have the bass with no mids. Just mute that there. We'll keep this in there just to add a bit of interest, and we'll also add some other sounds later on as well. Yeah. The good thing about pads and everything is you can use them in the intros. Should add a little drum fill here, I reckon. So if we get rid of the snares. Consolidate that one. Mute all these. reverse that maybe. There we go. Very glitchy, kind of like that. Let's just see how it flows into the next section then. And really I didn't do too much there, it was just like deleting certain sounds, but doing so makes the other sounds like this percussion here poke out. It could actually be turned up a little bit, I think. I'm hearing clicks again. Can't have clicks. But it's that I messed up earlier. That's what it is. Yeah, look. Oh man. I'm gonna have to go through and delete all those, but let's do it now, otherwise we're going to regret it later. So it looks like, yeah, look, there's a tiny little segment there, so I need to get rid of all those. Right, I know these are in groups of 4, so I can just do one group of 4, and then I can render them all by pressing Control J, and then I've got a group of 4, just make sure that is, yep. And then I can press Control D, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Need to get rid of this. 2, 3, 4, 5. This is the laborious part of producing. Lots of copying, pasting. If you mess up, it's better to catch it earlier than later though. And yes, I do know I could have just pasted the first half, but it's too late now. And that is done, finally. Sometimes what I like to do is continue that sort of drum fill part into the beginning of the next segment. So just have like one hit. This is a bit boring on its own, I think, so we need to jazz this up a little bit. So put a bit of auto pan on there. So what we can do is, just to keep it interesting, we can move this up and down. the rabbit's going crazy. Sorry, I'm back. Give it a bit of delay. Cool, so next, I think we're writing like a mini track because usually you'd have like a double section, I reckon, with this, so like it'd be twice as long, and then for me personally then I'd do like a more of a chorus style part, which would be the bit with the pad, but for the sake of this video maybe we'll do the intro now. Let's see how that goes. So I like to do my tracks so they have a decent amount of intro but not too long. So I find personally that somewhere between 33 and 49 is good, but I think we'll do a 33 this time. We can use this, I reckon. What I really want to do here is just use the tops. But I really want to wash them out completely, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this group like that, but I'm only going to use, let's get rid of that. This is my intro drums. Helps if I spell it correctly, doesn't it? Intro tops, there we go. Just because I'm like this, I'm going to make them a different colour. So, here we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wash them out completely with reverb. In fact, we should use the same one as this, because that would be silly not to. So I've got a Valhalla reverb. And then right, I think if we use this maybe, and then we can still have a bit of rhythm, but it'll sound a bit more interesting for the intro. Let's get a bit further in so we can actually see what we're doing. What's this here? 4.8. Should we make this one 4.8? try that. Maybe we'll introduce some of the bass here. But without the sub. How can we get that in there nicely? Maybe a chorus. Let's leave that there for now. Come up with some sort of drum build. Whoops. Let's get rid of those percussions. Where are they? Down here. Gonna do like a standard kind of kick roll. So maybe not put it on the actual snare itself. This would take a little bit of tweaking, I think. Maybe we do this, bit of that. Oh, I think as well, personally, I think a little bit of a break before the actual drop goes a long way. So what I like to do is just cut out everything. Maybe I'll leave that there though, but just cut out most things before. Or I could do that. There you go. There we go, it's coming together. Right, I'll give it a quick save. I'm gonna have a quick break, grab a tea, coffee, and that'll be back in a minute. Hey. So, had a little break. I had a bit of a thought on this as well. I think actually we're gonna expand it out. We're gonna make some of these sections here a little bit more less repetitive actually. So we're probably going to keep this one, this little pattern here on the 808, and change this one up here. So just very slightly really, but it will make the world of difference. So if we go inside there, if I can click properly. We'll just move these around until we get a pattern that we like. Maybe if we move this back as well. Okay. Whoops. Didn't mean to copy that. Well, that's quite nice. I just copied it over and just so I could extend the sound out a tiny bit further, and it actually worked all right. If you just use the crossfade function, there you go. You can barely even notice it. And then I can just extend this out as well, and then we've got a nice longer wobble. Maybe something like that. So I think this section here as well, we're going to push out to the other side. We're just going to push it out another, whatever that is, 8 bars. Just so we can create a slight different first section here. I think we're going to change this one as well, to be honest, just to keep it interesting. So if we mute this one here, I kind of like that. I've got a filter on it. Oh yeah. I wonder why I was making that. So I was thinking earlier about how we can make these sounds quite wide as well. And I have a plugin called something something wide. I think it's like vocal widener or something. Vocal doubler. So what it does is it just widens the actual sound. If you can actually hear that, it's kind of like a chorus. That's the effects only there. So we can use, there's a wet and dry knob on it, just that will blend it in a bit better. Just gives it a bit of width now. I'm just going to trim a little bit of the low end off this as well because it doesn't get too muddy. And in this last section here, just to carry it over into the pad section, I think I'm going to do a bit more of a complex drum breakdown. So I might just follow this pattern here. So all I need to do is just minimize all this stuff so I can actually see what's going on. Doo-doo-doo. And then we can just copy the pattern. If we can mute these, they're the snares. Oops. There we go. Unmute that. I really enjoy working with audio because you can see exactly where the stuff is. So now we've got that kick pattern which follows the 808 pattern. We can then try and put some snares in there, which hopefully most of them will fit where they were before. There we go. And maybe we'll do a little kick roll at the end here if we just end it on that, and then we can play with the hats. So I like to play around with just being like reversing. I think that's like one of my most favourite ways to manipulate audio. Because you never know quite what it's going to sound like, and 9 times out of 10 it sounds pretty good in my experience, especially with drums. So get rid of this one, and then we might, I think if we use that as another reverse. By the way, it's just R to reverse usually. There we go. Just making like interesting patterns around here, just keep it flowing. maybe we can have like haven't done this yet really, like a ghost snare. So it needs to be a lot lower in volume from my experience, and usually change the EQ slightly with ghost snares. Maybe not too happy with the way that's sounding, if I'm honest. Could just use these as a percussive element. So what I sometimes do is just render all three of those hits together, and you can create like a very slight snare roll like that. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Oh, I like that actually, it sounds quite cool. Maybe we could put that here as well. Oh, that also sounds quite good like that, so we could just have a nice building pad there, and then bring the drums back in on maybe there, like on this snare. It's all about keeping it interesting, really. The way I tend to work, most of the time I'll come up with maybe like a, how many bars is that? 32 bar loop of like, and then I feel okay to repeat that. I might make some minor changes and stuff, but 32 bars, you're only ever going to hear it twice in a row, I guess. Maybe 3 times if you're doing a really long track, but then in that case you'd probably make it more interesting. Another thing we can do, and what I do quite a lot, is adding in like more drums, sorry. So like on this spacey section here, we could add a lot more top end or something like that. Maybe we could even reuse this, to be honest, because this is just like a really washed out drum loop. That sounds kind of nice. just going to use the first part of that though, because I know there was a lot of automation going on. Let's see. We can bring it in slowly as well with this. A lot of the time when mixing, I'll just do it as it goes along and then give it a final mix at the end. Try and blend the sounds in as you do them, and it makes it a lot easier in the long run. I'm not really feeling this sound anymore. That's the ARP sound. This second section here, it's alright to have that loop twice, I reckon, but for this one we should invert some of the chords. Let's see how that sounds. No, it's too high. The same chord essentially, but no. I just play around, like move stuff up and down an octave. Ooh, until you get something that you actually really like and it's not too far from the original. That sounds alright. We'll just put that as a slightly different colour so we know it's different. We can even use that on the intro, to be honest, as well. So this here as well, it's very washy, so what I would be inclined to do is just add a bit of sidechain on it, on the snare. So sidechain, and then you just select your snare channel or one of them, and it should if not, choose another one. There we go. You can use this as an effect, or you can use it just as a mixing tool. If you use it as a mixing tool, it's probably good to just have a very quick reaction time, especially with snares. So it just ducks it for that very specific moment in time. You won't notice it in the mix, but if you wanted to use it for, let's just solo the snare. If you wanted to use it for more of a creative tool, you up the release, and then you get that kind of classic house, that pumping kind of sound. But I think in this case we might use that because it's quite nice. I usually change the lookup. I think it's called lookup. So it looks ahead and it knows where and it triggers the sample up to 10 milliseconds earlier. But the advantage with that is you don't get any clicking because it's not instantly triggering the sidechain. If you want it to trigger at the same time, if you want the sidechain to trigger at the same time as the sample, you just increase the attack to match the lookup. I like to just do it 1 millisecond prior to the actual sample hitting, just to give it more room. You won't notice it in the mix, but think this sub needs to be a bit thicker, if I'm honest. We need to add a bit of, where are we? A little bit of saturator. I wonder what happens if we put them down an octave. That could be nice. Let's try that. This is a bit too much now, I think, that whooshing sound, so I'm going to use the wet and dry knob to dial it in. So at this point I think it feels like it wants to go into a breakdown, so what I'd normally do is copy over the whole track. If I didn't feel it, if I wanted to do like a second drop, I'd add that in after. So what do we want? How short a breakdown? Maybe we'd do quite a short one, so 16 bar breakdown. Usually you might get a 32 bar, but in this one we're going to do 16. And then that's been copied over now, so but we are now going to do something slightly different, hopefully. Okay, going to add another filter in here. I'm going to filter this up. And let's expand out this window so we can actually see what we're doing. Always helps. We'll filter this up. Again, we're using the Alt function to make a curve. A bit thin on I reckon, so I think we should do something about it, make it a bit thicker, or back it up with something else maybe. When you've got an arpeggiator like that, if you want to translate that into MIDI, there is a way, I believe, and I might look like an idiot now because I'm just going to try insert, and you use the channel that you want the MIDI from, and you feed it into this one. So I'm looking for 44 straight EP. There we go. There you go, and it's triggering it. So I'll make sure I haven't got anything else on record. Nope. And then now, if I record, it should record the new MIDI in here. There we go. And that is our new MIDI. The advantage of that is you can then go in there, make any changes you want to the actual arpeggiator sound, and you won't have to be governed by it all the time. There you go. Now I'm using this one. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to back up that sound with a different sound, maybe like a detune, because that's quite a plucky sound, so I want like a bit of a thicker sound underneath it, just to keep it tighten up a bit. Let's make it pink. Why not? But before I do that, I'm going to group these tracks together, and then I'm going to put this auto filter, cut that off there, and I'm going to put it on the group track, because that way I don't have to duplicate my settings. Right, okay. I'm just going to copy these over as well. This is the reverb channel, so if I just Control X, I think that's cut, and then Control V after I selected that one. There you go. Make sure that's at 0. There we go. Now I can add another sound to this one. Let's use another stock plugin, see what we got. Actually, I'm just going to quickly freeze this one here. Right, so this one is now frozen. That'll save us a bit on the CPU. Now we can look for another sound for this one. So if I use this technique quite a lot. I just you know, it'd be nice. I just thought like a plucked, not that one, but like a plucked string pluck. Okay, unfortunately you're not going to be able to see this, but I'm going to open an instance of Contact, and then I'm going to use, I'll talk you through it. It's Session Strings Pro, so I'm going to, not that one. All I'm going to do is I'm going to load up a patch, which is just string plucks, and I'm going to use that to back up this one here. Or we can use staccato maybe. Ooh. Yeah, we can use all sorts of different sounds. So pizzicato is like a classic pluck. I kind of like that though. So gives you that stereo width as well. Getting a bit conscious of time now. I should probably start boifing up the drums a little bit more. So usually I'd spend a lot more time on each element, and like obviously the bass is quite pony really, but for the sake of a production like tutorial, I guess it's sort of just to show you how I'm working rather than like showing you how well I can make basses, I guess, because I can't. I'm more about the process. So in the drums, I reckon we should I think we should add a little bit of saturator just to boif up, thicken up the sounds. So let's try a bit of warmer in there. So that's sounding quite nice. Obviously it's getting kind of loud now, so I have to be careful. Always keep an eye on your output there, so I should really turn it down there rather than here. So it's all about making sure you're not going in the red. Oh, actually, yeah. One thing I like to use quite a lot, especially on the subs, so we'll go back here quickly, sorry I'm all over the place, is actually, I think it's this, erosion, yeah. And it gives you that fuzz on the top end, which is really cool. Why is that on there? Yeah, it gives you that fuzz on the top end, which is really cool. It gives you, I love it. So we turn this up a bit. I think this here we should like maybe add a big reverb hit to the last snare potentially. This one. So the way I'd do that is just go into here and then you can literally draw in your automation bump. So if we do that, that'd be really extreme. Let's get rid of this though. And I've just realised that we've got a few hi-hats knocking around on the end of this. Where we don't necessarily want them because we want it to just to finish on that snare. What is that? Okay, so we've got all our basic elements now. What I'm going to do now is something that I do in every single project. So I'm going to bring in another track. So what I've done is I've just grabbed one of my own tracks that I thought might fit quite well as this in as a comparison. So a track called Reorient that was released on Terra Firma. So this is it. What I'm going to do is just cut the beginning off so the drops happen at the same time. And then I've turned off the actual channel, and usually I just have it on solo. So when I turn off solo, I'm going to match the volume with the track that we've been doing. So it needs to come up a bit. So what I'm hearing is our drums probably need a little bit more crunch. They're kind of clean as they are, so maybe we should look at some extra compression slash saturation on those, maybe some limiting as well. So we've got that warmer one on there, maybe we can put some hot tubes on there as well. The beauty of this is you can crank it and then just feed it in. That's better. We should probably do the same with the bass too. So we could even copy that one over. There we go. Bit of a mad track. I kind of like it though. Probably clear the dance floor, this one. So one thing we haven't put in are effects, and effects are really important. So I have a folder of a few effects that I tend to use quite a lot, some go-to ones. So this one I love because it just sounds really nice, and you can do quite a lot with it. I tend to, with effects, have a lot of fun, so I'll stretch them out loads like this. Maybe that's a little bit too much. Use the texture function. There we go. So maybe we'll filter that up a little bit, up towards the drop. Also need like a riser, I think, so maybe not that. We can also add a bit of the auto pan on there. I like to do that quite a lot. There's a volume alternator. Just gives it more of, there you go, more individuality. What else do we need? We need some Jesus. can do with a crap sound, eh? Oh, one thing I did while I had it paused, I just copied this drop here onto here because I preferred it. I think we need some like organic kind of Foley. That would be really cool to fill up that space. So maybe not that. FX. Sorry. Chill. Here we go. This is quite it's not a very liquidy track, is it? So something more industrial. I think that could work. Sounds like someone in the snow or something. So, but we're just going to use like this top part of it. Like give it texture. Real sounds. Goes a long way, even if it's really subtle. That is very loud. Okay, that definitely shouldn't be there. I think we should get rid of these as well. Let's see what this sounds like, eh? Nope. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to duplicate the kick channel. Just for this section here. I'm going to delete the rest of them. Screw them, they can go to hell. What we're going to do is we're just going to filter this in. We can use this, just so down here, maybe come up again before the drop. Or we could just do that. copy that over there. Maybe we can put some more reverses in just to introduce other parts of the track. No, that stops on the snare, so maybe we should. There we go. One little trick that I do sometimes if I'm struggling for CPU, I'm not in this case, but if you've got a frozen track, you can always just group it on its own, and then you can still use effects on there, like a filter. In this case, I couldn't be asked to unfreeze it, but we can use a filter on it. But just be mindful, if there's any sends, you need to put them on the group. See if we can build it up until the drop there, the breakdown. Maybe we can do that on the intro as well. Okay, so we've got some basic effects. We've got our basic elements now properly, so we can work on the mix. So obviously when you're doing a mix, or maybe not so obviously, you want your kick and your bass, your sub, to work well together. You don't want them to clash too much. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, it's not the kick channel, or it is, there we go. So I'm just going to have a look, see whereabouts where the kick is hitting. So it's hitting around here, which is like 90, the fundamental is about 75, so it's quite a low kick. So it's got a bit of thud to it. So what I might do is just, believe it or not, just taper it in a little bit and just roll a little bit of that low end off. Not too much though, because you still want it to punch through. So I'll leave that soloed. We'll just loop this around, and then I'm going to go get the sub, wherever that is. So the sub here, you can see, is about 45-50 hertz. So our kick is here, which is actually pretty, apart from that note there, not too bad, because you don't want them to be hitting the same frequency really. You want them to be working well together. So a lot of the time I will, I know some people wouldn't agree with this, but I use a sidechain just on the subs though, not on the mids. So I'll sidechain it to the kick. There we go. But I'll do the lookup thing, so 10 milliseconds, and I'll put it at 9 or maybe even 10, I'm not sure. See how it sounds. on my master, I've just got an EQ8 just set up so it rolls off everything above 100 hertz. So I can just turn it on and I can just check the low ends and how they sound on their own. So you can clearly hear that the kick is, you can hear it. So it's punching through. I'm happy with that. Let's just check. It's not ducking too much. You can taper it in just by using the wet and dry. So this is the whole track. So it's a bit muddy down there. So what we want is just the kick really, and the sub down there. So I'm just going to mute the kick and the sub, and then have a listen. You might have to turn it up a bit to hear it. So this mid bass here probably needs a bit of the low end taken off. Yeah, look. Okay. So now I'm happy with the level of the kick and the bass. I'll just compare it to the other track again. Ours is a lot cleaner than that one. We could still add a bit more crunches to the drums maybe. We do have a drum bus here in Ableton, so we could try and use some of these to give it a bit more crunch. Wow, that makes a huge difference. Apologies for the ears. It's a little bit on the harsh side, maybe like 2%. Just a little bit. As far as all the other sounds concerned, there's not a huge amount going on in it as far as melodic parts are. What I'd normally do is I'd group them together. Okay. So one thing I just noticed listening to this on my speakers is our bass is a tad on the muddy side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up and EQ8, and we're just gonna, so it's all around this area here, so a good frequency to watch for is 215. So if you really boosted this up, that's a really muddy frequency, so you want to be careful because we've got some good resonant frequencies that we wanted in that area. What I might do is bring this up here as well. Okay, I think that's sounding pretty good. So obviously I would go into a hell of a lot more detail when, like, if I had more time, but for the sake of this video, this is the track that I created. Thank you to DNB Academy for having me, and I hope you enjoyed the track that I've made. It's pretty mental, but hey, this is me, Lower. Enjoy.
Yo, we're Galaxy and we're a drum and bass duo from the UK. Have been for 9 years and we've been signed to Shogun Audio since 2017.
Since then, we've released our debut album, Research and Development, and a handful of other EPs.
We've put this course together for DNB Academy, covering our whole process of writing a drum and bass tune from start to finish.
So we give you an insight into our process and specifics of drum production, sound design, melodic ideas, and sources of inspiration, including some samples as well. And ending with a mixing and mastering session to get your tunes ready for release and to play out in the clubs. This is Galaxy, and you're watching our drum and bass masterclass for DNB Academy.